Oh, maybe not. Hello, hello. Welcome in. We are coming at you live October 15th. We got some dynasty trades to help you win your league this year. We are 6 weeks post 6 weeks into the season, so by now you probably have a pretty good feel for if your team's good, if your team's crappy, heading towards a rebuild, if you're kind of towing that playoff line, if you're going to make it or not. Um, I I know there's been a lot of leagues kind of going around where you're trying to make that decision about, man, am I going for it or am I gonna just kick off a rebuild? I know I had to make a tough trade earlier today where I had to trade to get my first back because I thought my team was gonna be better,
Ooh,
but it had Joe Burrow and I want to say Evans and a couple like maybe neighbors. Like there was a couple guys that just all got hurt, and I was just like, I felt good about it, and then it kind of went sideways on me. So I
yeah.
had to make a couple trades to get my first back, but it happens, man. Good intentions.
Thankfully, I don't think I have any of those like bad teams that I moved my first. Oh, I take that back. I have one that is actually struggling. I lost Joe Burrow. I lost Lamar Jackson's been injured, so I think he's coming back. But like without like my team's pretty solid without QBs. But yeah, that's always the toughest thing, right? When you move a first and things go wrong, you're gonna have to pay a pretty penny to get that first back, right? And so
Yeah. Trying to
I think that's pretty good to get that back, right? And then but yeah, like I've been trying to make some moves to make my team that one there to be better, but it is what it is. You kind of just have to soak in and take the L's.
Sometimes you need a good soak. That's a Utah
Exactly.
reference in case you've ever been out here.
Nope.
All right, so I got my 26 first back. I got an early 26 2 and a 3 back, and I sent Jacobs, Jalen Warren, and Joe Flacco. So like, I got some points off my roster. Trying to get I got my first back, which
Yeah,
hopefully it'll be like a top 4 pick. It kind of is a bummer, but
I feel
it
that. Yeah.
happens.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing though, like there's if you can get your get points off your and then you're also getting your first back, like
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing, right? If you're moving into a rebuild, you want to get those points off your team,
Mhm.
especially this year, because I think that there's going to be a big drop
Yep.
off after like the top four guys, even maybe less than that. I'm sure people will
Mhm.
come and be a lot more worth than what they are today, right? We're only halfway through the season with the college football and NFL. So, you know, I think a lot of times, even though a guy may not be great, I think if he lands in a good situation, that could end up being good, right? Like Bill, for example.
Yeah, and I mean, there's guys too where it's like going into the year, what we were looking at, Drew Aller and Garrett Nussmeier were some of the top QB prospects, and now we're looking at Dante Moore and Fernando Mendoza.
Yeah.
So it's like maybe it equaled out. It's just not the guys we maybe thought it was going to be, but sometimes it just we'll see what happens. All right, we got a lot of football to go
Oh yeah.
before we get to that point. So
But no, that's a good season. So if you're holding somebody else's first, right, you want to, in my opinion, you want to try to get the most out of them to get that first back. You hold the
mhm.
cards, right? So just kind of shoot for the stars and then go from there, right? So for example, like if you're looking to upgrade a wide receiver and you have their first and or they're trying to maybe you can get them Malik Neighbors for their first and a
Mhm.
plus or whatever, right? So just if you have that first and you are tanking or whatever, then keep it. Or if you have that first and you're trying to get better, then use a injured asset maybe and add that there first and tier up or something like that. So like for me, I have a really good team that has Malik Neighbors. I don't necessarily need to move off of him, but it would be nice to upgrade, at wide receiver. I can move Malik
Mhm.
Neighbors and I can make my team better. But like it's kind of the same thing with that first, right? Is you don't necessarily need to move it, but if you can get something good and they're overpaying in your eyes, then go ahead. But in my opinion, you gotta kind of hold those firsts if you're holding somebody's that they're not doing well. For example, Wes reminded me that he has one of my first in our one of our listener leagues, and that team is not doing well, right? So if I was Wes, I'm not sending that first back to me until I'm overpaying, right? That's how it should be.
Oh, for sure. I kind of expect to overpay when I make a
Yes.
boo boo and try to get your first back. Um, it's kind of a lessons learned kind of thing. I
Yep.
generally try not to send my first unless like until like middle of the season. Um, but sometimes you feel good, you're feeling it, and you're on a day where you're just like this team's rock solid. But
Yeah. And with this one here, unfortunately, that was a startup in the off season, right? And I think I
yeah,
moved my first to move up in the draft, and injuries have happened, and that's just
yeah,
something that's unfortunate, right?
that's
But I did know, like going into it, like okay, if I move this 26 first, like I personally don't love the players coming out in 2026, right? I could lose out on people, sure, but like I'm in a fine spot because maybe next year I don't do as well also, but now I'm in a spot that okay, I I'm not really going to add much in the draft because I don't have my first, but now I'm in a good spot to okay, let me move a few players and get some 21st picks or whatever, so it's not always the worst thing in the world, but it is fun to kind of be like, "Ha, I have your first and your team sucks."
it's like I guess right that your team is
Yeah.
gonna suck. Yeah. All right. Man, the blue tent struck some more victims this past week. Marvin Harrison Jr. went out with a concussion. It sounds like I would expect him,
Yeah.
especially considering he had a pretty severe concussion in college, that he's not going to come back this week. He's probably going to be out one, and I think they're on bye next week too. So like, it makes sense to kind of set him out, let him rest, give him 2 weeks. Garrett Wilson with a knee injury. It sounds like I think he's already out. If I read that report right, or
Yeah,
at
I
least
think
they're really
so.
not expecting him to play. I don't know the severity of the knee injury, but not awesome. Puka Nakua, he banged up an ankle. It sounds like they don't think it's a long-term issue, and maybe you could tell me, but it sounded like he's going to sit out this week. They're on bye next week, and then he should be ready to go the following week.
I haven't seen anything concrete, but from kind of following the Rams and knowing how McVay works is like, okay, they're flying all the way over to I think it's London, right?
They're in London, yeah.
And I just they're playing the Jags who are playing well, right? But I think they can win without Puka. That's the mindset of McVay, and they'll have the bye, so that gives Puka 2 full weeks to rest up, and he should be good down the stretch, right? I don't think it's anything to really worry about. But with injuries with the Rams, I feel like you always, unless it's like a pretty bad one that you can like tell right away. Outside of that, you're not going to really know because they keep things pretty much under wraps.
This is why you pay Tutu Atwell $10 million a year.
Exactly.
This exact moment to tear up
I have
London.
seen on
Yeah.
I've seen on Sleeper that Jordan Whitting is getting a lot of his projection has increased quite a bit. So like for me, that kind of tells me, okay, Puka's most likely going to be out. But to me, it's going to be Devontae Adams, right? That's going to be the
Oh,
guy.
yeah.
I think they're probably going to use their tight ends a little bit more. And then, Whittington may get a little bit, but nobody's really going to be worthwhile playing outside of Devontae Adams, Kyron, those things.
Yeah, I'm not. I wouldn't feel super great starting anyone outside of Adams and Kyron there in LA.
Yeah.
If you're really
Oh,
desperate, which there's some leagues where I am.
totally.
Whittington's
Yeah.
fine in 2-2.
And then
I guess.
also those games in London are just brutally
Sometimes
bad.
they almost are never like a shootout. I feel like
Yeah.
they're usually just kind of sloppy, and I think a lot of it's just like it's a big time change, and especially for the Rams from LA to London. What is that, like
Yeah.
8 hours? Like that's a big. It's not insignificant, right?
Yeah.
So
It's pretty rough. Yeah. So
could be here tough. Like that Broncos Jets game was a tough watch, dude. I'm ashamed to admit that I watched more of it than I probably should have. With how rough that was.
thankfully those games kick off at 6:30. So if my son hasn't woken me up by then I'm still sleeping. So
Yeah.
but I did watch most of that game as well, and it was gross.
I just kept hoping. I was like, okay, maybe someone will do something. And it wasn't even like just the Jets. Like you can kind of expect that, but the Broncos are a fairly competent team, and they
Yeah.
just looked like they were just playing to the level of the Jets. Just like, now let's just see who can not mess us up the most. And then the last one here, Emeka Egbuka. Man, it's like the year of the wide receiver injuries, dude. But
Crazy.
anyways, Egbuka looks like he's got a hamstring injury. It sounds like he's going to be out for a little bit, probably a few games, I would imagine. And they're already down. Chris Godwin, I know, and Bucky Irving is out too for Tampa Bay. We were just talking about that. Like Mike Evans is practicing. Well, we think he's going to practice this week. They're the Monday night game, so that's tough. Like if you're hoping he's back, you kind of have to hope like, okay, you have another option, like ready to go Monday night. If Evans is maybe a late inactive, maybe he's practicing. That's something to watch during the week. But man, they're starting like Tez Johnson and Cameron Johnson, the other Johnson. We definitely didn't have to look that up before. Yeah, Sterling Shepard. That's just an interesting receiving core. They have a good matchup against Detroit, who has down like half their secondary. So hopefully Mike Evans can play because he's in for a good game if he's ready to go. So
yep.
Weirdly, I'm not that concerned about Baker. It seems like he can throw to anybody and just be fine. So
I'm so impressed. Good. He's been great. You know, like that third down was that is like the definition of Baker right now.
Yeah, dude.
You know, I think that's what people wanted Johnny Manziel to be, right? So that's what made me think of like when Baker had that run, it made me think of Johnny Manziel, right? Just like the Texas A&M Johnny Manziel. That's what made me think of him. It's just like he's got the swagger, but he's got a much better head on his shoulders. But yeah, no, he's somebody that you really want to root for. And he's been killing it. Like for me, he's my MVP right now. Like he's been holding it down. Doesn't matter who the wide receivers are. Like he throws the ball and just it's been great.
Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, Baker Mayfield is the Tom Brady of Johnny Manziel's. Yep, 100%.
He is, dude. He's awesome. That was funny too. I think Tez Johnson was like telling Sterling Shepard on the bench. He's like, dude, they're chanting MVP. He's like, man, I ain't done anything. And they're like, that was for Baker, man.
Yeah,
it's so good.
That was awesome. I think it's funny too because like Tez Johnson is just like a humble guy, so like he totally thought they were cheering him for MVP. He's like, why are they doing that? I'm like, I've done nothing. So that's great.
Rookies, dude. George Kittle and CeeDee Lamb are back at practice today, so that was exciting. I think hopefully they will be playing. Do you have any concerns with George Pickens if CeeDee Lamb is back in the rotation, or do you think he's just playing at such a good level it doesn't matter right now?
I mean, I have a little worry because what he's been doing is like awesome, right? Wide receiver one, like
he's been
huge numbers, touchdowns. Like, I think obviously he's going to regress from what he was been doing, but I think the defense is so bad that they're going to have to throw so much. And I think really like Jake Ferguson might be more of a take a hit more than George Pickens. But to me, it's kind of hard to tell. Yeah. Both have been really, really good. So like kind of, I'm stoked that CeeDee's back, but also it's a little unfortunate because like, Ferguson's been great. George Pickens has been great. So like, in my opinion, if CeeDee Lamb's out one more week, like that's a nice pivot. Move George Pickens because like, you could probably get quite a bit for him right now. And he obviously is going to regress when CeeDee comes back. Like how much, I don't know for sure. He's still somebody that you feel really good about putting in your lineup, but I think you want to take advantage of something like that, right? CeeDee's been out. George Pickens has been great, putting like probably one of the top wide receivers in the last couple of weeks in terms of points. So I do think the touchdowns will be there. I just think that the yards will be, reduced. There'll be more people there or one more. And then he's a very good wide receiver in CeeDee. So I just think the biggest thing there is just probably going to hurt both George Pickens and Ferguson, but I don't really have too many worries.
Yeah, I have some small concerns. I think that some of the because he's wide receiver 4 right now in the season, George Pickens is. So like I feel like that ceiling is probably gone with CeeDee back, but I think they'll be, I don't know, like 15 to 20, somewhere in that range.
Firmly, yeah. I think just off the volume and how much they have to pass because their defense is so bad, like he's firmly a wide receiver 2 the rest of the year. For me, like you don't necessarily need to go out and trade him, but if you could maybe move him, for a pretty good piece that maybe somebody might be down on, or somebody that's injured, like I would explore that.
Yeah, definitely. All right.
And then
Speaking of,
Mike Evans, will he be? We have any news on Mike Evans coming back this week? That would really help Baker.
it would help Baker. Yeah, so they're the Monday night game, right? So they're not gonna practice, put out a report until tomorrow. So we'll have to monitor that, but hopefully he'll be back. That would be helpful for Baker. All right, so a couple buys here that I thought would help your dynasty team, right? The first one, Kamani Vidal. It sounds like a Marion Hampton, so he's missed the last like week or two. Sounds like he's not. It's not going to be like a 4-game IR stint. He's like back ready to go. Sounds like it could be a little bit longer than that. And Vidal played fantastic. Like that was probably the best that the Chargers have ran the ball all year. And granted, it was against Miami, so it's not like it was the greatest of competition in the world. But 18 rushes for 124 yards and 4 targets. It's nothing to sneeze at. He played fantastic, and I think there's no reason to think that he can't continue to do that. I think he's fairly obtainable. And with all the injuries going on right now, like, I mean, Vidal is probably with Hampton out, he's probably at least an RB2 for those like 4 or 5 weeks. And I think if you can get that for, man, I don't know, what is Vidal going for? What would you pay for him right now?
I'd probably pay a second, right? Just because the volume.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, so I think the volume is going to be there. So I think the biggest thing is like we clearly found out that Vidal is the guy they want to use versus Hassan Haskins, right? And also with the touches he got, he did a really good job. Like you said, they're playing Miami, so it's more to see kind of what we want to like. The next game will tell. But honestly, to move a second for Vidal would be nothing crazy. Unfortunately, like when I was looking at last week on waiver wires, there was not a lot, but there was a good amount of Vidal, right? So unfortunately, if you missed out, now you're going to have to pay up. So, but on the flip side, if you do get a second for Vidal, like I would take that as well. So I would buy and sell for a second because I just don't think that is going to continue, right? Hampton's going to come back at some point. I don't know for sure. I think he'll be out for more than the 4 weeks. But he can come back after 4 weeks. And, I just think that offense is going to be mainly go through the passing, right? Herbert's really good. But there will be enough for Vidal, but I just think you could, if you got him off waivers, like, unless you're in the playoff hunt already and your team's really good, then I feel like you could feel pretty good about getting a second for him.
That's the thing with, even if you're not in a position to compete in some of these dynasty leagues, to stay kind of locked in. Because if you had picked up Vidal off of waivers last week and now he explodes, and you can, even if you get like 2/3 for him, or maybe you get a second, right? Like now you made a second round pick out of waiver wire fab, right? And like I think that's kind of the tell of like, okay, stay active, stay involved, even if your team isn't good, because you can still make these moves to kind of help your team for the future. And if you're competing right now, like a late second round pick in a draft class that we think might be kind of bad,
he's super cheap. There's 3 here that were just a third. There's 2 seconds for Vidal and a third. There's a second. So you should be able to get him for like a second, no more than a second, obviously, and you probably could do it for a second and a third. So like for me, if I got him off waivers, I would definitely explore moving him if my team's not great. And if your team is good, I still think I would explore that because he's probably your 3rd, 4th, running back, and if you feel like your team's pretty good with the depth. You most likely got him off waivers, or you had him where you got him in the 4th round or 3rd round of the draft a couple years ago. So to me, that's an upgrade.
Yeah, and who's to say, even when Hampton comes back, that they don't kind of help ease him in, and Vidal still has some form of standalone value when Hampton comes back. That's not so suddenly be dead. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And another thing would be it's like kind of hold to see if he does it another week and his value is only going to go up more. Right. Mm-hmm. So unless you are like in a spot where you are already out of it, haven't won a game, whatever, then I would move him for kind of a second and third. But if your team's, you're winning, you probably can put him in your lineup in the flex and, wait another week. And if he does play another really good game with over 100 yards, then you probably can get, a second and a player for him.
For sure. The other guy I had on here, Jalen Waddle. Obviously, you can see the picture of him. I think he's fairly obtainable right now. I think there's still some name yuckiness with Waddle, where it's like you kind of associate the Dolphins, and Jalen Waddle's kind of been up and down throughout his career. But just some quick numbers for him the last 2 weeks. So basically, since Tyreek got hurt, he's topped 100 air yards over the last 2 weeks. There's only 4 wide receivers that have done that. It's him, Devontae Adams, Jamar Chase, and JSN. Pretty good company. He's gone over 3 yards per route run the last 2 weeks. Usually, you want to see that over 2, and over 26% target share. And the only one to do that over the last 2 weeks was JSN and him. So like he's playing extremely well, and I don't think he's priced as
So
well as he's playing.
Yeah, if my team is, you're feeling good, I would move a first quickly for him. 26 first.
I think that gets done.
Absolutely. I just pulled up Dynasty Daddy. I see 3 or 4 of them with just a first and a third. I see a first and a third with Waddle and a second coming back. I see Marvin Harrison for Jalen Waddle and Jaden Reed. So, I mean, I think Waddle and Harrison are kind of going the opposite way. I do think I would still want a little bit of a plus if I'm moving Marvin Harrison Jr. for Jalen Waddle.
Sure.
But I think moving forward, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, but like Tyreek Hill is probably not going to be playing on the Dolphins
He's done
ever again, right? And so Jalen Waddle is their wide receiver 1. And I think he can only get better if they do change the head coach, right? The head coaching staff and the coaching staff in general that loves the tight end. Doesn't matter who it is, right? You can throw whoever in there and they're going to be targeted, right? So I think if they have a different, which I am assuming will come soon, if they continue to lose, they will have a new coaching staff. And I think we'll see a little bit even more of Jalen Waddle.
Yeah, I mean, I think Waddle's a unique one where it's like you can get him for a late first. He's still, I mean, I think he turns 27 later this year. He's entering the kind of the peak of his career. I think they're going to have a new head coach next year. He should be the focal point of the offense. Like, I think he is in a position where you can get him for a late first, and that his value is going to just increase this time next year, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. He's playing really well. He's been healthy. That's been the one kind of bugaboo on Jalen Waddle, is that he's been banged up a ton. He's actually been fairly healthy this year, knock on wood.
He has.
So
I mean, the last couple of years, he just had those hamstring here or there. Now he's out of game, whatever.
Right.
It's like nothing been major, but this year he's, staying healthy. So I'm hoping he did some, better off-season training, whatever, to keep him healthy. Or it's just been better luck, right? Whatever it is, we hope to keep it that way. And I think he will thrive in a wide receiver 1, position.
Yeah, I think so too. And, we listed off all those wide receivers that got hurt just last week, right? There's a good chance if you're a competing team that you need some wide receiver reinforcement, go out and get yourself some Jalen Waddle. He's playing awesome. That offense is fairly competent despite how bad that team is. And the team is going to give up a lot of points, so they're going to be slinging it. So Jalen Waddle's a pretty good, as long as he's on the field, he should be pretty solid there.
Absolutely. One guy I wanted to, I don't know if you have another graphic, but talk about a little bit was Nico Collins.
But it's not for Nico. Yeah.
I was trying to look up and see, I think there's better days ahead, right? So I was trying to see if his value is really down, but it isn't really. Like, there are some weird trades here, like a Nico for Noah Fant, likely, and a second. Like, I'll do that all day, but I don't think that gets done in most leagues, right? So he's still trading for about a first and a second. So same kind of thing, right? If you're looking out to go buy Waddle, I think Waddle's playing better. But I do think there's better days ahead for Nico. He's a very, very good wide receiver. So if you can get him for a 26 first and a 26 second, go out and do that, right? There's, like you just said, we've got 4 more wide receivers that are banged up and injured. I think you're not going to really have to overpay for Nico because he's not playing well. But I do think better days are ahead. So I think you want to try to get ahead of that and try to buy Nico now before he kind of has a really good game.
No, I agree. I like Nico Collins a lot. I think he's very talented. I think that's a situation too where some of that is the offensive line in Houston's just horrendous.
Yes,
It's not helping CJ Stroud. Stroud hasn't played particularly well. It's some of the I guess pressures are on him, right? He holds the ball kind of long, and that's just kind of how he's been since he played at Ohio State, and it is
yep,
what it is. Some of that is always going to be part of his game, but some of it too is like if you give him a little bit better blocking, like that lends to big plays, and that's where Nico will strive. So,
agreed.
better days are ahead for Nico, and like he's had a couple moments here or there, right, where he's kind of gotten loose, and I think this week might be a little tough because they play at Seattle on Monday Night Football. That might be a little bit of a rougher day, but I think I mean the talent's still there, right? And I think you're betting on basically the talent, the figure out the situation at some point. So
Yeah, and I think if they could, I don't think it really magically gets fixed, but with that offensive line being bad, like if they can get any kind of run game going, that right away, I think Nico's the guy that's going to benefit the most.
yeah.
Unfortunately, CJ Stroud just hasn't been the same since his rookie year. So,
Mhm.
but I'm just betting on the talent, like you said. I think Nico Collins is a very good wide receiver, and I'm sure people are very down on him, right? So I think you could get him for a first and a small plus. May not even have to be a first and a second. Like I think you can get him for a first and a small like a player.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he's pretty attainable right now. He's kind of in that group of receivers that like they've kind of disappointed a little bit with like him,
Yep.
like Brian Thomas, and yeah, I guess Garrett Wilson's kind of hurt now, but like AJ Brown, kind of in that similar vein of like guys that were had kind of higher expectations that they haven't produced as well as we would have hoped this year. And I think it's hard when you know you have those guys and then you see like JSN just running wild and like Drake London just going just nuclear on Monday Night Football. You're like, man, that should have been my Nico Collins, and it's not. And then that leads people to kind of chase the next big thing, where you might miss out on Nico bouncing back at some point. So,
Yeah. And so that's what I mean. Like, try now. Like, I tried to get some Drake London before he, a couple weeks ago, especially when I lost Malik Neighbors in a couple spots
mhm.
where my team was really good. I tried to just do it 1-for-1. I tried a couple different things and just, didn't happen. Right. So now Drake London is, especially after a huge week, he's pretty most likely unattainable.
Mhm.
Most people don't want to move a player after they have a great game. So yeah, I think Nico now is the time, and maybe he does not play well this whole year, but to me, I think the talent will win out.
Speaking of buying players after a good game, Jackson Dart and Cam Scatabo, man, they went. That was impressive. It always
Indeed.
helps on the island games when just all eyes are on them and they have a big game, right? You tend to get a little bit of some overreaction, but like I think Jackson Dart, I'll start there. He's like if Justin Fields played like a competent passer. He's not quite the same runner as Justin Fields. He's not quite as like I don't want to say athletic because he's definitely athletic, but he doesn't have quite the same. Maybe the speed is probably the better way to put it. But he's got that same rushing floor, right? He's gone over 50 yards in all three of his starts on the grounds, and he's starting to throw the ball a little bit better. And I mean, his top receiver last week was little Jordan Humphrey and Wandale Robinson. So like, it's only going to get better when Malik Neighbors comes back, and I think that's where I'm at the point with Jackson Dart that like I think I've seen enough that he's played well enough these first 3 games. And the rushing floor, he's gonna be probably a low end QB1, high end QB2 the rest of the way out. It's at a point where next offseason, Malik Neighbors is gonna be back, which should keep and prop his value to where it's at now. So it's like if I want to spend I don't know, like even like an early 26 first for Jackson Dart right now, I have no problem doing it. Right. Like if I want to send Dak and like a mid to late first to get to Dart, I have no problem doing that because I have no doubt that like next year during the offseason, I can ship Dart off for just whatever I paid, or if not more, just because the hype train is going to keep going when Malik Neighbors comes back. And God forbid if they draft another wide receiver in next year's draft class and get it
Or
even more. You know what I mean? Like,
or even make a trade, right? Because if they
yeah,
win another game, they beat the Eagles, right? So they're on cloud nine. They win another game, they're right back in it, right? They continue on a win streak, right? Then they're probably going to want to go look out and try to get a wide receiver, right? I saw a rumor about possibly Chris Olave. Like that would be pretty cool. Like think about
that'd be
Malik
neat.
Neighbors and Chris Olave next year and moving forward, right? And that would even elevate Jackson Dart even more. So I'm with you. Unfortunately, I didn't get too much Jackson Dart when I drafted. I was a little bit kind of like, I don't think it's gonna happen. Like New York's not a good spot, whatever, right? But I think a lot of times we kind of galaxy brain it, right? And he was a good quarterback with that rushing upside, right? And we have those type of quarterbacks. I think you just got to swing for the fences, and if you like if they don't turn out, they don't turn out, whatever, right? But even somebody like Justin Fields, we thought was dead, the beginning of the season or even in the off season, his value was all back up to about a first, right? And
Yep.
so, and then we're talking about quarterbacks that are coming up that we don't know too much about, right? There's guys that are up and down, different name almost every week. So we
Mhm.
don't even know if a guy like Dante Moore is going to come out this year. So there's so many question marks with the quarterbacks, and yeah, that'll all get worked out. But I'm with you. Like I would be okay moving a first. Maybe it ends up being early, but like you moved a first for a quarterback now that you can probably feel good about. And if you need to move him next year, so be it. But I think his value is only going to increase.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to get like younger at the position too, like if you, because right now I'm just kind of looking at my tiers, like I have them tiered with like Jordan Love and Baker Mayfield and Brock Purdy. Like, if you wanted to move off of Baker, I know he's playing fantastic. Maybe your team's not good, and you're kind of built for the future. If you want to get younger, maybe you could get yourself some Jackson Dart. Maybe it's a little crazy, but I feel like Dart has a potential to go higher, whereas Baker's going to be pretty stagnant, just based off of his age. And that's kind of the game that I think you're playing with Jackson Dart. Like it wasn't that long ago. CJ Stroud was like QB3 behind Mahomes and Josh Allen, and
Yeah.
obviously times have changed, but it's like these rookie quarterbacks when they hit the year after that offseason, their value skyrockets. And it just and so even if you don't even necessarily believe in Jackson Dart, like the fact that he's done what he's done and we know Neighbors is coming back and like there's gonna be a hype narrative to it, like his value is just gonna keep going up. So I think yes, you are going to pay a higher price today than you would have maybe last week or a couple weeks even. But like I still think his value hasn't hit the ceiling of where it's going to.
Yeah.
Um,
I saw, so I pulled up, obviously, I have Dynasty Daddy up, and I had 2 days ago Jackson Dart for Jordan Love straight up, Josh
yeah.
Allen for Jackson Dart and a first. I think
Hmm,
that I don't know if I would do. We know who Josh Allen
I might
is,
be
right?
pushing
And
it.
so that one's a little too much for me.
I might be pushing
Um,
it. Yeah.
but I would like, I think we're at a point where Cam Ward and Jackson Dart are like the complete opposites, and you're gonna have to add like at least a first to get to Jackson Dart if you have Cam Ward, right? Which is crazy to think,
I don't even know if that's
but
enough, right? Like,
exactly, that's kind of what I'm getting at. Is like, okay, wow, like Jackson Dart was going, end of the first, sometimes early second, most of the time. Cam Ward was like 102 to 104, right? And so now they're in like complete opposite spots, right? And so I do think, like you said, the hype will continue. He has a couple more good games. It will even go more, and then it could level off a little bit. Say he, comes back to life a little bit. But I think, like you said, in the off season, people are going to be super hyped. Malik Neighbors is going to come back. We're going to probably hear some, good news. Okay, Malik Neighbors is doing well. He'll be back for the beginning of the season, and then you roll into, startup season. He's going to go in the second or whatever, right? And that's when you can, capitalize, get yourself a couple 27 firsts, or move to like a lower tier and get yourself a plus. So
that's I think that's the play is if you can get him for maybe a 26 first and even a 27 first, maybe you pay two first to try to get him. You get your points this year. He helps you to get to the playoffs. Maybe he helps you win. And then in the offseason, you can try to chip him off and try to recoup some of the assets you got. So you're basically trying to like front, 2 first-round picks for him to help you this season and then try to recoup some of that in the offseason. And I think it's doable. I think that's kind of that might be the play. If yeah.
So I was thinking, like, what do you think people would want to add to, or do people have to add to Joe Burrow to get to Jackson Dart, or do people have to add to Jackson Dart to get to Burrow?
I think you have to add to Dart to get the Burrow.
Agreed.
But I don't think it's as much as you might.
Yeah, agreed. And I think we're obviously players are not necessarily. I'm on the boat that players aren't really injury prone. It just happens, and it's part of the game. But this is the second.
Every season, basically, Burrow's been hurt.
Yeah, and this is the second big injury for Burrow, right? And so, but it's so hard with somebody like Joe Burrow who's attached to, he's got 2 of the really, really good wide receivers. So that's tough. But Du Bois, Kevin Coleman says to sell Jackson Dart in all caps.
Sell him to me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with this, right? But I think where our argument is if you buy him now, right, you should be able to profit later when his value increases even more, right? Like I would agree with Kevin Coleman here that like in the long the long game here is like I think Jackson Dart's going to be fine, right? Not great, he'll be fine. We've seen this type of player before. I think Dart is a bit better than Justin Fields, but I think the biggest thing here is if you're buying Jackson Dart now, you're banking on hopefully like selling him for like increasing. Sorry.
I love it. All caps is fantastic. Yeah, I mean, you said it though, but I mean, I think basically it's that you're buying him now because you think he's going to be even higher this time this next off season, and then you can kind of ship them off too for some picks or maybe a more like solid player. Maybe like a safer player might be a better way to phrase that. But I think this year, I think he's the way he plays and the way the Giants kind of have to play. I don't see a scenario where he just is all of a sudden just bad. Anything less than like a top like 15 quarterback the rest of the way.
Just like the volume and how much he's running, and I just think there'll be games that they're down that they have to throw the ball a ton, and so I just think the sheer volume and number he'll be a fine QB2 with some QB1 upside
for sure. All right, his running mate in the backfield, Cam Skattebo, that dude might be crazy. I don't know if he's going to make it to a second contract in his NFL the way he plays. But that's not really my concern at the moment, right? I think he's just fun. First of all, Dynasty is supposed to be fun, right? He's just fun to watch, right? To have on your team. He's a cool dude. Yeah, I like the way he plays the game. I think he's good, man. Like I was kind of on the fence. Like he was good at Arizona State. I wasn't sure how his game would translate to the NFL. He plays so like hard and just with so much energy that he just is good. The Giants line is run blocking pretty well, and I'm kind of buying it, dude. I'm kind of buying into the Cam Skattebo that he might be a thing more than just like kind of a flash in the pan. Talking off the cliff here? What do you think about Skattebo?
It's hard to talk off the cliff here because watching him like 2 weeks in a row now, he's done really, really well. Last week, 3 touchdowns against the Eagles. Obviously, I think the Eagles are a bit down this year. Also, they didn't have, I think, one of their best defensive players. So, I think in the long run, Cam Skattebo is somebody that you should probably trade in order because I'm with you. Like, I don't think he's going to be in the NFL for a long time. But he clearly is the running back one there now. Tracy's not really going to take anything away from Skattebo unless he gets injured. So I think you hold unless you get an overpay, right? Like I saw Skattebo for Quinshon Judkins, right? I would do that all day. Yes, Judkins had a bad game last week, but I would do that all day. And I know Spanky's thinking in his head, well, wait, I might do it the other way. I just believe in the player a bit more. of Quinshon Judkins than Scatterbo, right? So, I mean, I think they're really close to each other in terms of rankings and tiers, right? But I'm gonna bank on the better all around player.
That's fair. Scotto has played very well. Okay, so quick question for you: who has scored more touchdowns in the NFL this year than Cam Scatabo? Rushing touchdowns.
Who has?
Yeah,
I mean, let's see here.
there's only two. I'll give you. A hint.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say there's not many.
Yeah.
Who had a lot of touchdowns one game? David Montgomery, maybe.
No, but that's a good guess. Montgomery has one less.
Okay. Who else has a bunch of touchdowns rushing?
One plays for the Colts.
Oh, Jonathan Taylor. He's been great. Okay. And who's the other one? I don't want to sit here all day thinking. Okay.
Josh
that's
Jacobs.
it. Yeah, I should have guessed that one.
So, and Scatabo barely played the first couple weeks too. Yeah. So I feel like that's, and now granted 3 of those came in one game this last week, right? So
I was just gonna
it's a little skewed, but because you probably could have made the same argument for Trey Tucker a couple weeks ago, after he scored 3 touchdowns. But
I'm with you. Like it's like, if you can get a first for him in 27, not necessarily 26, just because I don't know which running backs are going to come in and be better than Cam Scatabo from the class in 26, right? Obviously, I think I
know a couple off the top of my head.
I know Love is better, obviously. But other people can make an argument that Love is not the best running back coming out. So it's just like, do we know? We don't know, right? But
no.
It's tough because I don't know if I had Cam Scatabo if I would move off of him. And also he's not somebody I'm going to buy just because I've talked about it before. I don't like to buy people when they're like sky high.
Yeah. So I think to a bit of a lesser extent of Jackson Dart, Scatabo is kind of in that same boat where it's like, I can see his stock just kind of steadily increasing. He might be a little more volatile just because he's a running back and he didn't have the draft capital. So I wouldn't quite buy as high, but I do think if he continues, obviously not going to score 3 touchdowns every week, but if he continues scoring, let's just say he scores 1 every other game, right? That puts him at double-digit touchdowns at the end of the year. He's probably going to end up a lot higher in the offseason than he probably should be, and then you can move off of him. And I think he's going to be rest of season. Where would you say he's going to rank as a running back rest of the season?
I would say back end RB1 and clearly a running back too, right?
That's with
some upside, right? So I had no if somebody wants to go out and buy him for if you want to move Quinshon Judkins for Cam Scatabo, right? The situation right now is a way better, in my opinion, right, for Cam Scatabo than Quinshon Judkins. Because the offense is abysmal in Cleveland. And so I would do something like that, but I also see Scatabo in a second for Jonathan Taylor. So for me, it's why are we doing that, right? And so I think you would make the same thing. Why make that kind of trade? So for me, I would be very wary about what I'm moving for Scatabo. I see Amarian Hampton for Scatabo, right? It's do I want to do that? I don't know. I could see both sides, but I think again, if you need the points, then I get it. But also Hampton is a much better player. So
I think where it makes more sense is if you're transitioning off of maybe you're starting kind of a soft rebuild, right? Where you're just not quite ready to compete. Maybe you competed the last couple of years and you kind of have some older players and you're trying to move maybe some of those vets to teams that are trying to take that next step that maybe don't believe in Scatabo, right? Maybe you can kind of move off some vets to get there. It might be a little harder to do that though. I'm trying to think what I would realistically pay for Scatabo. I think if my team's on the fringe of the playoffs, I would send a first for him. I don't know if that gets done though after last week's game is the problem.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Is I would send a first if I feel like my team's in the playoff hunt. I would send a first for him. But I don't. I'm with you. I don't think that gets done.
So you could probably do a first and probably is going to take a first and a second to do it, right?
Yep.
And that's That's tough, but I think if you feel like he's going to get you across the finish line, maybe you have two solid running backs ahead of him. He's going to be your flex, like, and that helps you win the league. I mean, I would do it, but I don't know. But I'm a little more. Sometimes this time of the year, I'm just like, let's roll the dice. Let's see what happens.
Yep, I get it.
So,
I get it 100%. And that's a way you sometimes you have to play, right? If you want to win, you need to make these type of trades, right? We know Scotabo is going to be scoring points. He's in a really good situation. You know, and for me, the 26 class is down, right? So if you can get it done for just a first, like I'm all for that. But in my opinion, you don't want to make a move to like, you know, go from Scotabo and something else to or go from Jonathan Taylor to Scotabo and a plus. Like that's not the type of moves I want to make.
better be a good plus.
Exactly. Exactly.
But then also, like, if you have Jonathan Taylor, you're probably competing. So what are you really accomplishing?
Yep. Okay, cool. He's younger, but I don't know. I think Jonathan Taylor's going to be great for the next couple of years. Just like, you know.
I agree. All right. A little bit different way to think about some of these trades that I wanted to bring up. So next week, there are 6 teams on bye. I had a list of some guys here, and I wanted to kind of run these by you. Trying to get like extra points for a week, right? So JSN on the Seahawks obviously has been fantastic. One team that's already had their bye is the Atlanta Falcons, and Drake London has been playing very well, good too. Could you see a maneuver where you try to steal an extra week of points and maybe not lose all that much value from moving from JSN to Drake London, just straight up?
I would do that. I mean, I think they both have questionable quarterback play, right? Meaning, I don't know. I know Sam Darnold is signed, and you know, Michael Penix is on his rookie contract, so both should be good over the next couple of years. But I really believe in both those players. That, you know, I think if you're moving from one to the other, like, it'd be fine. It's a fine move, right? I don't think you have to add a plus either way. Like I'm good with that. And to be honest, I think, you know, it's tough because I think JSN's been playing so well that maybe JSN is the better play long term. But again, like we were just talking about with Scotabo, is like, okay, these are the type of moves you have to make to feel like you're going to win. Yes, this is dynasty. So to move from JSN to Drake London is really not, you're not going to lose out much, right? They should be pretty equal value. Both are going to be playing. Both are playing really well. So for me, I like that move.
That was my thinking there. Is that, like, I think London's playing well enough. Now you get an extra game. Maybe that helps you get a bye week. Yeah, Jason could be catching passes from Jalen Milroe in the future, or trying to catch passes that are somewhat
trying to catch
more accurate way of phrasing that. And then I have a couple other thoughts kind of in that same vein, right? So BTJ for Rome. I don't know if that gets done just because BTJ hasn't been playing as well, although he was good last week. And Rome kind of have a down week, so maybe that gets done. A couple other ones here: David Montgomery for DeAndre Swift, and maybe a little bit of a plus, or Jordan Mason in a plus. Jahmyr Gibbs for Bijan. You might have to add a little bit to get a Gibbs. I don't know. Sam Laporta for Tucker Kraft. Marvin Harrison Jr. for DK plus. We talked about earlier. Marvin's probably missing this week. He's going to miss next week on a bye. DK already had his. I like DK Metcalf too, and I don't like Marvin Harrison, so that one's probably might be a little bit more me. And
it's funny because last week I was saying that you should sell DK, right? So
I know,
like I'm okay with that one. It just, to me, it would depend on the plus, right? I would need, I wouldn't say Rico Dowdle, because I think Rico is going to be really good the rest of the season. But I also think they're also going to kind of, him and Chuba Hubbard are going to kind of cancel each other out a little bit, because there's no way they're going to keep Chuba Hubbard off the field and the same thing, they're not going to keep Rico Dowdle off the field, right? So they're both going to be, it's going to be kind of like a who's hot on that drive type of thing. And then, with DK, I like Aaron Rodgers is playing very well. But one injury away and DK's, that's going to be really, really rough. Right. So I struggle with that one.
Yeah,
I understand. Yeah. I struggle with that one, but like I said, it would really depend on the plus. And then Puka to JJ. I think that could get done because JJ is not playing great.
Hmm.
But that one for me is just preference, and for me it's easy, an easy answer.
I know you like Puka. But my thought there was that like because Puka's probably missing this week and he's probably gonna miss the
And next,
obviously they have the bye, right? So like now you get an extra 2 games of points with Justin Jefferson. Next week could be tough with the bye, so trying to get ahead of that to
Yep.
try to get an extra win because a lot of your opponents might have a lot of their starting lineup out next week, right? And so just some kind of thinking outside the box a little bit of try to how do we get ahead of that rather than before next week when you go, oh shit, like half my starting lineups on a bye. How can I kind of keep getting some of these points going?
All right, I like this one
All right,
here.
let's read
Should I
this.
trade James Cook and Zay Flowers for Rome and Bucky? I'm
Yes.
2-4 in a 14-man team, or excuse me, 14-man league with an 18 playoff. It's redraft, full PPR.
Okay.
So with it
That's
being redraft, I
good.
struggle a little bit because I'm not certain when Bucky's coming back. He should be back next week, but it's not certain,
So
right? So I think I ride with James Cook and Zay Flowers with it being redraft.
So the only downside there, you're 2-4. You need to win this week. James Cook and Zay Flowers are both on bye. Buffalo and Baltimore are. So you
Here's his team.
probably would want to get okay.
So he's got
Um,
Gibbs and Ken Walker this week.
dude. Okay.
Yeah, that one's tough. I think
Mm,
it's preference there because I think it sounds like me and Spanky are on both sides of the coin there. I think I still lean James
I
Cook and Zay
I think
Flowers.
you need to do it to get points from Rome this week. And then you're praying that Bucky's back next week and that he's gonna basically be James Cook. I would do it.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
I also don't like Zay Flowers that much, so I don't know.
yeah, I was gonna say that too. Like James Cook and Zay Flowers, obviously James Cook, that was more of just like the Bills just not playing well. But Zay Flowers, he had, I think it was 2 fumbles that were just really bad.
Yeah,
So yeah,
I would do
I
it.
think you just talked me into, yeah. I'm now on
Let's
Rome
go.
and Bucky.
Let's go. Roman Bucky for the win. Also, I've come a long way hyping up Rome Odunze, man.
Yeah,
I spent the entire offseason crapping
I
on the dude,
couldn't,
and now I'm
I,
just it's
I
the
couldn't
afro that
believe,
really won me over.
yeah, and I couldn't believe like how bad he was last week, and I don't even blame it on him.
So
It's just
he
like,
could have scored. Well, I think he
yeah,
did score, and it got brought back on
yeah,
a penalty. There was a couple plays. I saw a tweet that was like he scored like 4, like almost 5 points, and it could have been like 35 based on like a
yeah,
couple things that happened. So,
yep,
um,
100%.
yeah.
I'm
So
just bitter
I
because
like Rome.
I think I put an anytime touchdown on him on a parlay and it didn't hit. So
Yeah. That could
happens.
never
It
happen to
happens.
me. Yeah. Real quick, why don't we hit a couple start sits?
Yeah,
I think so the Broncos, it's kind of it's Courtland Sutton here as a sit, but really it's all Denver. They're coming back from London, and I know they're playing the Giants. And I think they just
I can
played
see.
that game against the Jets. I can see the Giants winning that game
I
straight
would,
up.
yeah,
Denver's coming back from London. Usually those teams get a bye. They didn't. That's a big time change. So they went from Denver to London, back to Denver. That's a pretty big time shift in 2 weeks. I can see kind of like a body just not being ready to go, maybe playing sluggish, and I think that the Giants could win that game. So I could see a sloppy game from Denver.
agreed. I've got Bo Nix as my sit for quarterback, and Evan Ingram as my tight end. Right. So I think,
Yep.
unfortunately, like Bo Nix, you might, but you probably don't have a better quarterback. But maybe you have like a Daniel Jones, right? So I would feel much more comfortable putting in Daniel Jones than Bo Nix this week. So, and then my running back is Jaylen Warren. I know this is kind of tough because he's on Thursday night, but they get the Bengals, who are a very, very
Yeah.
friendly defense. So I feel pretty good about that.
Very
And
kind.
honestly, the offense is playing pretty well. I know it didn't look great against the Browns, but their defense is very, very good. Well, top 3 for sure. Browns defense,
Mhm.
and now they're getting a bottom 3 defense. So I think like Warren, DK, even Aaron Rodgers is a very good play this week on Thursday night. And then for my wide receiver is big head Romeo Dobbs. All the guy does is score touchdowns. I think it's because he wears the Guardian cap, and he just
Swear that
sticks
cap
out
gets
for
bigger every week, dude.
yeah, it does, and I think it sticks out for Jordan Love. But
Yeah.
I think he is just really the biggest thing is he is the main guy in the red zone, right? So
Yeah.
obviously, I wouldn't sit him or I wouldn't play him over like some top wide receivers, but he is a like kind of like a touchdown machine currently. So I feel pretty good about that. And then my tight end, Oronde Gadsden. He had a really good target share last week. I think it was like 20-something%, and he had, I think, 60 plus yards. So for me, I think he's really getting into that offense, especially if QJ doesn't play again this week. I think he'll be very, very good. Like we talked about a little bit earlier with Kamani Vidal, that offense is going to have to pass a lot, right? So I do think, Gadsden is like option number 2 or 3, right? So maybe 2A, 2B with Keenan Allen.
Yeah, Keenan's been slipping a little bit. He had a really good start to the season. Ladd McConkey's been coming on a little bit. It's almost like, a 34-year-old wide receiver isn't sustainable through the course of the season.
Yep, absolutely.
Rashee Rice first came back from from suspension, and good for you. You get the Las Vegas Raiders, who secondary is questionable to say the least. And Mahomes has been cooking, dude. So I wouldn't say I'm excited to see what Rashee Rice is going to do because it's against my team, but I think it's going to be a good offense. It's a little scary to think him and Worthy and Hollywood and then Kelsey. That's a pretty nice offense there. They're not really running as effectively as I think they would want, and so they're just letting Mahomes sling it. And I think Rashee's in for a good week.
Agreed. And then my 2 sits here. It's kind of hard for me to sit Alvin Kamara, but I just think the he's just not the same, unfortunately. I do hope he does get traded. Because I think if he was on another team, they would use him a bit more. He's not getting the same touches and everything, which I think maybe it's a little bit more of him than anything, because I know Kellen Moore is doing well, and you can tell I was one to say he was not very good as the offensive coordinator, but clearly he was, because the Eagles offense is brutally bad. So it's been a mess this year. So clearly, like I was, kind of harsh on him, but he's done a good job there. But I feel good about, sit Alvin Kamara if you can. And then T. Higgins, right? Kind of the opposite there. It's just been pretty bad for the Bengals. So if you've got better options, I would sit T. Higgins.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't feel good starting T. Higgins either. But we'll see. Soon to be Chiefs legend.
To be honest, that would be super cool. Yeah.
Well, it depends on your feelings on the Chiefs, but yes.
I don't love the Chiefs, right? But like for their offense, for fantasy, like, it would be cool. They would use him correctly.
I would assume so. If anyone could, it's gonna be Andy Reid. All righty. Last week we went 1-2 on my prop bets. Friggin' Saquon, and then Stephon Diggs. Everyone else in New England caught just a billion passes for Stephon Diggs. Go figure. But this week, Pat Mahomes over. So basically 2 touchdowns to over 1.5 passing touchdowns. I think that's a good. Jordan Addison over 43.5 receiving yards. They play Philadelphia. I assume Philly's going to put their best corner on Justin Jefferson, as they should. Their second corner is very bad. I think it's Keely Ringo, and I think there's one other one but they were just getting torched. They were getting routed up by Jordan.
Who was it? I saw a bunch of people like, get this guy out of here. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, I'm blanking on the name too. They were getting just roasted. And then Ramondre Stevenson less than 47.5 rushing yards. Tennessee
Adoree Jackson.
Oh, right, Adoree Jackson. Thank you. Ramondre he hasn't been very good, man. And Tennessee actually has a pretty good run defense. I think this is gonna be an ugly game, that New England Tennessee game. It's two kind of coaching. Tennessee just had a new coaching staff. Brian Callahan got fired. They like you get that interim head coach bump. I'm sure they'll play hard for their new coach. New England has done just horrible things with that offense, other than Drake May just slinging it. So that's where I'm at there.
Love it.
Yeah, and then up there, I got some DFS picks too. I think Caleb Williams is a good play this week. Dallas Goedert, all he does is score touchdowns. Addison, obviously just talked about him. Rico Dowdle, that's assuming Chuba doesn't play. If Chuba does play and he's active, I wouldn't. I would go look somewhere else because Rico has that 6,800 price tag, which is pretty hefty. And I don't want to do that if Chuba's active. But
that's why I kind of looked in a little bit. I was like 6,800. Whoa, that's expensive. But yeah, I mean, Rico's been great, right? And that's the type of player you want to use in DFS. But with that 6,800 price tag,
usually against the Jets because they can't stop run.
Yeah, I mean, I feel good about that if Chuba isn't playing. Yeah, but if Chuba is playing, like I said a little bit earlier, it's like I think it's going to be a 1A, 1B, right? And I think Chuba is going to cut into Rico's work, and I also think he had 200-yard plus games. Like I think he's gonna obviously he gets a great matchup if he is the main guy, but I think he's gonna regress a bit, right? So, and last week he had the Cowboys that he was like, I'm gonna destroy the Cowboys.
Yep, that was a revenge game. I love a good narrative, and he went. What did he say too? He's like they weren't buckled up or something to that effect. And I was like, my guy, that's my guy right there. All right, we got a good week of football coming in. The college football slate is great on Saturday. I think there's like 5 ranked games, which is awesome. Thursday night football could be better. It's I saw someone called it the Unk game because Aaron Rodgers and Joe Flacco are like 2 of the oldest starting quarterbacks playing. We'll see, man. It should be good. Some of these games might be a little dicey, but should be fun. Should be a good week of football. Hopefully you guys win unless you're playing against me, and then I hope you don't. But other than that, good luck on your matchups this weekend, and we'll catch you all on the next one. Peace out.
See ya.